and good morning, YouTube. Good morning, sunshines. Good morning, universe. I hope everybody is having a good day today, and I hope you can hear me clearly. Y'all, I've been listening to yesterday. So yesterday I was cutting up the Seeing Beautiful again, and the I sounded like I was in a tin can, and I didn't like it. And so, yesterday I listened to the replay just to see if it was like, was it that day or maybe the mic is malfunctioning? Child, I sounded like I was in a tin can yesterday, and what we not gonna do, that's what we not gonna do. After the organization of it all, I couldn't take it. So, your girl had to get a new mic. When I go, live and, show my facials, Imma show y'all my pretty new mic. I don't have to, touch it. It has a little arm on it. It lights up. It has colors. It's so cute. It's super cute. So yeah, your girl got a new mic, child. You can't tell me nothing now, child. I'm fancy over here. Hey, Mrs. America. Good morning, beautiful. Thank you for being here and letting me know that I am clear. Hey, learning. Hey, gorgeous. Thank you for being here, sunshine. I appreciate it. All right, y'all. You know how I do. I be trying to get in and get up out of here because I got works to do. Actually, today I got a little project that I've been working on. I got a interview on Thursday, and they asked me to do two um things to submit before this interview. It sounds wonderful. Yay! Is it too loud? Cause I have this little, so listen, let me tell y'all, I was trying to practice yesterday. When I got it, I didn't know how to turn the doggone thing on. It was lit up and everything, and I was doing a test recording, and I couldn't get sound out of it. And so I was like, you know what? One of the things that I am terrible about is reading the directions. So I actually had to read the directions, and there's this little knob at the bottom that you're supposed to turn. Child, I hadn't turned the knob. Turn the knob, girl. You gotta turn the knob to get the thing up. So I like it. Like I can pull the arm closer to me. Like I don't have to fiddle with the mic. So hopefully y'all won't hear me messing around with this mic because it's just here. Okay, Mrs. America's giving me some feedback. It sounds good to me. I got a blue mic and I had to learn and girl, listen, like I was like, it's brand new. It don't work. It wasn't doing anything. I was like, I bought a defective mic and I'm gonna have to still sound raggedy in the morning. And I just did not want to. And I was like, okay, the backup is to plug the headphones in like I did when I was on vacation. And I ain't want to do that either. I want my mic because it just allows me the freedom. So yeah, Mrs. America, I'm with you. I was struggling a little bit yesterday trying to make sure this mic worked for y'all this morning. Hey, Foxy. Good morning, sunshine. Safe travels on your way in and have a blessed day today. All right, y'all. This is our political mindfulness today. This is our political mindfulness. We are in our book, Across That Bridge. We know about our good Senator John Lewis, and he is going to give us some words on faith. So ours, and we can only do one section at a time because we learn from the forward and the intro that I can't stay focused when we get to the politicalness of it all because I be having thoughts that I be trying to keep inside my head, but they don't be wanting to stay there. So we let the universe do what it's gonna do. We let the universe do what it's gonna do, and it is gonna be what it's gonna be on these days of this political mindfulness. All right. So faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11 and 1. There is one question people ask me more than any other. How did you do it? How did you hold to nonviolence when a pounding wall of vicious hate was pushing through you like waves of fire during the protests and sit-ins of the civil rights movement? How is it possible to be cracked on the head with a nightstick, left bleeding and unconscious on the trampled grass, and not raise your hand one time in self defense? How could you bear the clear hypocrisy of being arrested on trumped up charges and taken to jail for disturbing the peace when you were the one who was attacked and abused? How could you survive the unanswered threats, the bombings, and murders of a lineage of people like Medgar Evers, Jimmy Lee Jackson, Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael Mickey Schwerner without holding any bitterness or anger? The answer is simple: faith. Faith has the power to deliver us all, even from the greatest harm. Faith, to me, is knowing in the solid core of your soul that the work is already done. Even as an idea is being conceived in your mind, it is being as sure as you are about your dreams as you are about anything you know as a hard fact. For example, you are sure you know how to drive to your home from your job. No one could make you doubt that you know the way. You are sure that clouds drift in a light blue sky. You know the date you were born. Faith is being so sure of what the Spirit has whispered in your heart that your belief in its eventuality is unshakable. Nothing can make you doubt that what you have heard will become a reality, even if you do not live to see it come to pass. Now, y'all, that's the hard part. Understanding that you may not live to see those things that you believe in. It might not happen in your lifetime. That's faith. That's real faith. You know without one doubt that it will be. That is faith. What Shakespeare wrote in As You Like It is not only poetic and beautiful, it also expresses a profound truth. All the world's a stage, he says, and all the men and women merely players. Life is like a drama, and any person who is truly committed to an idea must believe in the authority of a divine plan, not a rigid micromanagement of human behavior that predicts every step of every individual, but a set of divine boundaries that governs the present, the past, and the future. A set of principles humankind does not have the capacity to override, no matter how far we attempt to stray from its dictates. What we were communicating through nonviolent protest, what we were demonstrating by being willing to put our bodies on the line, was that love had already overcome hate, that the pages of America's book had already been written, that this nation's destiny was already sealed in the moment it was founded. So every expression of evil, including segregation, could never stand. We were actors dramatizing our faith in the supremacy of one truth that no law, no centuries old tradition, no military force, no material might, no matter how ferocious, could undermine the dictates of the divine. We knew the risks because America had held so intensely to the false notion of inherent inequality that we as a nation believed it was real. And people believed their reality verified it as the truth. We knew people would even kill rather than disrupt the notion of inherent inequality. We knew we had to be prepared to accept the sacrifices of beating, arrests, and jail. It was our faith of knowing, our knowing with an ironclad certainty that held us in the midst of threats, bombings, and even when we faced the deaths of cherished, courageous, visionary members of the movement. I had lived inside the irrationality of hatred and discrimination, and I had seen that it made no sense. I saw the dignity of the most American of virtues displayed all around my community in the actions of my family and friends, my parents, their parents before them and my great-grandparents were hardworking, honest, humble, family-centered people. They had an innate intelligence that was unrecognized by society, and they used an inspiring creativity to survive, even thrive. They were good, plain and simple, undeserving of hate. I witnessed the necessary human interaction between blacks and whites, especially vital in the farm life, which silently crossed those unreasonable social boundaries where shades of mutual respect were imparted but kept in the dark out of fear. Y'all, while I'm reading this, I just got off of watching a live with a content creator that part of me would like to keep selfish from y'all because just because. This content creator's live was about a young man in Chicago who had been taken away from us too soon. I feel like I should do a "We Deserve to Be Remembered" on him. Oh wait, yeah, I gotta write a note to myself. I feel like I should do it. We all deserve to be remembered about this young man. He was taken away when he was 15 years old, about uh, 11 years ago. And his mother was given an interview. And in the interview, what I got from it is the way that she was raised and the way that she raised her children and her son. It seems like the faith part that a lot of us have, even in the darkest days, I don't know if she had it or has it or n like, how is that faith automatic? Is faith something that is learned behavior? Is how do you get to faith? How do you get to a space bigger than yourself? It was a question that I had while I was watching, the live, and her interview was heartbreaking, heartbreaking. To have to recall the death of her son, her 15-year-old son, 11 years ago, and the story of the violence in this Chicago, he's in Chicago, and how do you have that kind of unfaltering faith that we don't really see these days in this younger generation? How do we give them this type of faith? How do we model that for our young people so that they see beyond themselves? I don't think a lot of our younger generations see beyond their immediate needs, their immediate wants, and this drug that is so addictive of clout. Not only young people in this generation of clout, we have older people who really don't have faith and they just believe in clicks and views and cash apps and clout. Okay, back into the book. Even as a boy, I knew in my heart and soul that the equality of all humankind was not just a dream. Children growing up under inhumane conditions are not carefree. This is what I was talking about. Okay, wait, Mrs. America, I looked up real quick and saw you. We definitely have to keep reminding them it is, right? Like everything now is just about the quickest way to be a millionaire, the quickest way to become viral. I looked at so this is why we can't get through his book. I got to put a pen right here. The whole Cardi B, right? Cardi B has made it. She has done the thing. She has done all of the things to make it. Yet she still cannot escape social media. She cannot get off of social media long enough to heal her broken spaces. She cannot get off of social media long enough to untraumatize herself and her inner child that is so hurt beyond repair that she has to clap back at every turn because she don't have faith. Where is her faith in all of the hard work that she's done? All of the things that she's done to get to where she is, whether you like her or not, whether you think she's a rapper or not, or she's talented or not, she has arrived, right? In our day and age of arriving, Cardi B has arrived, yet she still can't escape who she is and where she came from and how she got put on. Her worth is in this social media landscape, so much so that she can't just walk away. Why doesn't she have enough faith in herself to say, "Fuck these people and fuck their opinion. I got dollars now," because it's not enough. All of the things that these young people have been chasing and looking for and desiring, once they get it, it's still not enough. There is more. Ooh. Miss America say, "I tried not to comment. I had to." Girl, cause you listen, that's why I can't get it's hard to get when we have this political mindfulness, girl, I can't I be trying not to say nothing outside of the book. I be trying to stay focused and just read the book. Just read the book, girl. Just read the book. And then all of the thoughts. And I be like, girl, Mrs. America, I be trying not to comment too. Child. And I can't help but comment. Because I am a woman of a certain age. I have seen so much so that all of this is just wash, rinse, repeat for the next generation. Things change only to go back to what it was so that y'all can just be out here fighting over things that are already in the works, things that are already pre-planned that you have no control over. Cardi, baby, put the phone down. Stop it. That's gonna be the death of you. That's how we watch people rise and fall in this social media age. She needs absolutely learning die to the noise, but she can't. She can't. She hasn't learned that everyone doesn't have to like her. Right. She want everybody to give her a praise party. Girl, it's not their job to like you. They trying to get clicks and views off of you. That's their job. Literally, that's the game today. Clicks and views. That's why when this content creator, I share him a little bit with y'all on the people that I tell y'all to subscribe to. He's in there, but he's not in there under his main page because I'm still selfish about him. I don't know why he got 80,000 viewers. I mean 80,000 subscribers, but I sometimes I just don't be wanting to see my people in there in the chat. I'm selfish. But that was one of the things, like, this 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 clout generation, these, younger, people in Chicago have been using this woman's son's name in their rap lyrics. Remember I said this young man died 11 years ago, 11 years ago, and they are still putting his 15-year-old name. They're speaking illy of a 15-year-old deceased young man whose mother and family is still with us for clout. And it was the most heartbreaking interview I watched. Like I was originally gonna push this live back because I was like, "I don't even know if I can go live today, like, I might have to do it later," and then I was like, "Girl, you can do this." When he ended, I was able to take a couple minutes and get my mind right, but this clout generation and this validation and the clicks and the views of it all, they will never find happiness. That's the sad part. They will never You're not going to find what you're looking for externally. What you need, young people, is in you. It's already there. And I'm praying, like, really for my people, for my young people that live in my house, for the young people that I mentor in my real life job that I touch on a daily basis. I pray so hard for them. I pray so hard for their parents, right? Okay, back into the book. Stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. Even as a boy, I knew in my heart and soul that the equality of humankind was not just a dream. Children growing up under inhumane conditions are not carefree. They sense that something is wrong and embark on an inner search to explain so much that is not in keeping with their hearts. At a young age, I mourned for the experience of a more loving world. My soul insisted there was a better way. Many of us who joined the struggle of respect for human dignity, both Black and white, Protestant and Jew, have been locked in cognitive dissonance for years. By the time we were seasoned freedom fighters, it was more real to us than our own flesh and blood, more real than our own lives, and more valuable than our own longevity. We believe that if we are all children of the same creator, then discrimination had to be an error of a misconception based on a faulty logic. The idea that some people were inherently better was a delusion of the human ego, a distortion of the truth. We asserted our right to human dignity based on a solid faith in our divine heritage that linked us to every other human being and all the rest of creation, known and unknown, even to the heart and mind of God and the highest celestial realms in the universe. This unity was an intrinsic, inseparable aspect of our being. We had nothing to prove. Our worth had already been established before we were born. Our protests were an affirmation of this faith and our belief that we could never be separated from this truth. It did not matter that hundreds of years of unjust law and demeaning customs were tied to this wrong headed thinking, or that the history of an entire nation had been shaped by this error in judgment. We believe that if we were the children of an omnip child, here go a struggle word for your girl, omniscient, is it omniscient? Omnip, I want to say omnipotent, but there's no P in here. Omniscient creator, and we took a stand based on faith that the forces of the universe would come to our aid. No jail cell, no threat, no act of violence could alter our power to overcome any adversary if we did not waver. Your faith has the power to sustain you through the worst that you can imagine. You may have heard this somewhere before in your life. Religious leaders teach about faith on holy days. You might read about it in self help books, pop psychology, or spiritual literature. People pat you on the back when they know you are going through a hard time and encourage you to have faith as a way to comfort you. You would disagree with the idea that faith has power, but often this truth does not become meaningful to us until we are tested by a challenge we think we may not survive. It is then that we experience how transformative our capacity to believe truly is. Tragedy is the great equalizer, and no individual, regardless of wealth or fame, can escape the challenge tragedy brings. If one primary purpose in our lives is to cast off all illusions and awaken to the eternal knowledge of what is truly real, then tragedy can be viewed as an equal opportunity aid to our development. The problems we face in the trials of our lives, whether we are standing in protest against injustice or fighting cancer, battling addictions or bankruptcy, our problems can help each of us grow beyond our personal limits. Our problems initiate a struggle within our own souls that take us to the brink of our own experience. As we command our spirit to find a way to overcome these obstacles, we are forced to break past any false trappings of the identity and to focus intensely on what is real and what is truly important. Mother Teresa was asked where she found her strength, her focus, her fuel. The fuel, she explained, is prayer. To keep a lamp burning, we have to keep putting oil in it. Have you ever considered that the same power you activate in the midst of adversity can also be consciously utilized to bring forward the kind of change or transformation you would like to see in your own life? In the civil rights movement, we actively and consciously utilize the power of faith to move our society forward. We used faith as a shield against the false notion that anyone has the power to inflict pain, limitation, despair, or any condition upon us. We in the movement decided to actualize our belief that the hatred we experienced was not based on any truth, but was actually an illusion in the minds of those who hated us. I'm going to say that again. We in the movement decided to actualize our belief that the hatred that we experienced was not based on any truth. I'm talking to myself about the hating assholes on my job, but was actually an illusion in the minds of those who hated us. Y'all don't hate me. Y'all just be mad at the truth. Mm. The struggle for civil rights was more than a series of legal battles. It was a spiritual confrontation that tested the power of two ideas, one based on unity and the other based on division. Same today, y'all. That's what these Republicans, Democrats divide and conquer. Y'all need to stop believing in human beings and peoples and their ideologies of false, foolish bullshit. They all work together. They just wanna divide and conquer us, cause their clout is the almighty dollar. Their clout is your vote or your non-vote. Their clout is to divide you and to make you feel defeated, as if your vote is not your voice and as if your voice does not matter, and it abso-fucking-lutely does. Our faith rejected the notion that some people were inherently better than others because of skin color, hair, height, build, education, class, or religion, or any external attribute, and it embraced the equality and divinity of all humanity. In the moment that we relaxed into full recognition of our connection to the Creator, we remembered the words, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper. No weapon formed against you, you, you shall prosper." When we cast off the false notions designed to limit us and twist our creative powers to serve the work of shame and fear, we began to step into the majesty of our faith. When we rejected the idea that we were powerless, worthless, and incapable of counteracting the force of an unjust government, we could feel our faith building and our strength gaining. Many people misconstrue the motivation of Rosa Parks to keep her seat on the segregated bus in Montgomery. They have said that she was a seamstress simply tired on her way home from work who decided that day she would not get up. But she herself would say that her longtime work as a secretary for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, informed her of the organized actions already in motion to challenge the bus system. Her knowledge of structural movement to resist was the foundation of her protest, but it was a course she took at Highlander Folk School in Montego, Tennessee, about 6 weeks before she began her protest that took her off the sidelines and placed her at the center of the movement. Highlander was an oasis for many that featured an engaging program focused on empowering the downtrodden and oppressed in Appalachia, as well as Southerners, both black and white. Miles Horton, one of the founders of Highlander, made it his life's work to bring the principles of the Bible to bear on everyday life. His early experiences made him begin to question why the church was not using the power of faith to answer the needs of the people around him in Appalachia. He felt the church was too often satisfied with platitudes and memorization of sacred texts, while it remained silent on the moral, material, and even spiritual crises that people face. We still have churches, a lot of mega churches that are still here. They are not focused on the moral, material, and spiritual crises that people are faced with. They are focused on prosperity preaching, jets, books, movies, protecting their family. Let me be quiet, I'm paying attention. I just don't always say the things. The new theology he studied posited that faith should respond not only to the ethereal needs of humanity, but it should have a holistic impact on the lives of believers and on the communities in which they live. If faith had power, he declared, then its ability should be challenged to answer even our physical and material concerns and not be reserved for religious services and activities. If faith had meaning, its benefits should accrue not only after death, but it should have the capacity to answer the cries of humanity here and now. Good morning, Gordo Poppy TV. Thank you for being here, handsome. Thank you, and thank you. It was out of his compassion for the Appalachian families born in the same mountains as he that Horton created Highlander as an institution to educate mountain people, inform them of their rights, give them a central home to organize grassroots activism, and most important, to help restore their faith in themselves. Highlander's early work was an outgrowth of the labor movement of the 1930s and 40s. But after the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954, and I'm going to pause right here, because if y'all think that they're going to stop at Roe v. Wade, we already had a senator after Roe v. Wade was talking slick into somebody's comments and said, now let's do Board v. Brown of Education from 1954. They will challenge every Supreme Court ruling if given the opportunity. Horton knew he would have to begin educating around the need for racial equality. So when Rosa Parks visited Highlander in the summer of 1955, she was immersed in an institution with a decades-long commitment to integration. Noted educators and activists emerged from the ranks of the teachers of Highlander, such as the renowned Septima Clark and Bernice Johnson Reagan, a historian well known today as the founder of the a cappella singing group called Sweet Honey in the Rock. Folk singers Guy Carwin and Pete Seeger were also Highlander regulars. Martin Luther King Jr. saw Highlander as a retreat, a place to rest and restore himself during the stressful height of the movement. Parks heard about Highlander's workshops in desegregation and decided to attend a class there. She marveled at the team of integrated teachers who taught her and worked as equal partners in her instruction. The basis of her curriculum was spiritual, structured to remind the participants of the inherent divinity of all of mankind, which meant every participant there was also a spark of the divine. Parks attributed one of the major reasons she decided to stay seated to a desire to test this freshly awakened understanding. She wanted to see if this faith had the potency to defend her against the lie of her inferiority, even though the whole society surrounding her was founded on that idea. And when the driver told her she would be arrested, perhaps you recall her words were, "You may do that." She was asserting her power over her own divinity, giving the driver permission to do what she was allowing him to do, not what he was forcing her to do. She was declaring that as a child of the divine, she had a power that no other human being, regardless of their status, could ever take away. A policeman, a government, even a militia or an angry mob bathed in the work of injustice only the power only had the power to beat us, arrest us, or take us to jail. Our faith was that no force of humankind, no matter how brutal, could overcome the power of the divine. We believe that if we stood together as one people, gathered by our faith, determined to demonstrate the falsity of notions coursing through the society around us, then we would have heavenly protection against any evil that would befall us. We did not know how that help would come, but we knew it would come because the battle we were fighting had already been won. The truth had already been established. All we needed to do was call it forward and crash the illusions of injustice. This surety of support came for many of us from living on the precarious edge of subsistence. In the movement, we have very little money, no political power, no military force, and very few in the society around us believed in our capacity to contribute even the most basic of human gifts, to think with any clarity, to learn new things, to invent or create, to understand the world around us, or even to stand up to defend ourselves. We had no safety net, no one to turn to. We were born into the unfair circumstances that most people find themselves facing only temporarily at some point in their lives. We began stripped down to the bare minimum. We started out our lives dangling by a tenacious thread. So many of us came to the work of change already deeply experienced in the transformative power of faith. Our mothers and fathers had prayed us through the dire circumstances of living in the deep South: poverty, hunger, grinding debt, a system of sharecropping stacked against us, illiteracy, limited educational opportunity, not to mention the terrorism of the night riders and mob violence. If y'all think about it, all of these things from the deep South migrated into a lot of our inner cities. We see these descriptors in our inner cities: Chicago, Detroit. A lot of our inner cities are experiencing all of this. So many of our parents stayed on their knees and made sure we learned to pray that we were already familiar with the power of divine grace that would meet us in our darkest hour and somehow, some way seem to stretch the span of our universe to make two short ends meet. This was so much a part of our everyday lives that we had a name for it. We called it making a way out of no way. So when we were standing in protest, facing police dogs and fire hoses, we knew without any doubt that somebody who was greater than us all would make a way out of no way and protect the defenders of the truth. The one thing I will say that's wrapped into all of this, not only did they have faith, they did not have faith without the work. You cannot have faith without work. They had the work and the faith. You have to work. You have to put something behind that faith. You can't just sit in faith alone. Your faith has to show itself. Your faith has to be active. Your faith has to move. Your faith has to flourish. Your faith has to be seen. It has to be manifested. The role of the church cannot be understated here. And you can expand the concept of church to mean the communion of believers. It has been well documented that the church was a wellspring of common faith for most of us in the movement. It was no accident that the movement was led primarily by ministers, not politicians, presidents, or even community activists, but ministers first, who believed they were called to the work of civil rights as an expression of their faith. Religious faith is a powerful connecting force for any group of people who are working towards social change. The common principles and structure of our beliefs linked people across racial, ethnic, regional, and economic differences who were hoping to contribute to this growing call for change. And the universal principles that all the great religions share, like the power of compassion and the mandate to practice one's faith, connected us beyond the boundaries of religious precepts and joined Jews, Protestants, Catholics, Muslims, Hindus, and others as we united to work for civil rights. I was a backward country boy, raised in the cotton fields and backwoods of Alabama by a family of simple, hardworking, and deeply religious sharecroppers. Diane Nash, another leader in the student wing of the movement, was a sophisticated city girl from an educated family in Chicago who was raised Catholic. Bernard Lafayette was a prized son of a Baptist preacher who grew up in Tampa and Philadelphia. And we were all inspired by the Reverend Kelly Miller Smith, the well respected, highly educated pastor of the First Colored Baptist Church in Nashville, president of the local NAACP, and ultimately an assistant dean of divinity at Vanderbilt University. Bob Zellner, who did not join the movement until after the events in Nashville, was the defiant son of a Methodist minister who was also a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Despite vastly different experiences, a common faith connected us all. It was not exactly the same, but dynamically similar. This commonality infused the early days of the movement so that in Nashville, particularly, and later within the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Commission, SNCC, we called ourselves a circle of trust, a band of brothers and sisters wrapped in the unwavering knowledge that nonviolence had the power to create change. We not only had grown together as we discovered the transformative power of nonviolent resistance, but we had risked our lives to see its truth manifested before our very eyes. We had sounded the trumpet of love and human unity, and the walls of separation came tumbling down in Montgomery and in Nashville. This sealed our confidence in what we believed, and in the early days of our faith was unshakable. This makes me think about yesterday when I was riding my bike and being as mindful as I can be. I started thinking about like the universe. We were not created to be a peaceful place. There's been violence since the creation of this planet. It was created violent, but there is supposed to be a balance, and in that balance is where the faith resides. If the people, excuse me, if the people who have faith and the people who are peaceful don't fight and don't keep fighting, the darkness will consume us all. So that was one of my thoughts yesterday. I think I was not think I was listening to. I know I was listening to Kendrick, and there's a line from one of the interludes in his song of the therapist talking about the dark places and how that darkness needs to feed at certain times in our own personal lives and in the world itself. There is a darkness that will never leave us as human beings. It will never leave this planet or this universe. Our job is to stand against it. Our job is to drown out the darkness within us because if we don't, the darkness can and will consume us, and we will spread that energy into those we love and into other spaces and into this universe so that it can continue to consume us and consume our youth. As we participated in protest after protest, sit in after sit in, where crowds of uncontrollable, angry people swarmed around us, yelling and jeering, where we were beaten with billy clubs, lead pipes, trampled by horses, and attacked by dogs. Our faith was not dampened. As many people today, looking back on the history, often wonder, it actually grew in power and strength. We felt that society had done its worst to us. It had beaten us, arrested us, and put us in jail, and it still could not silence the burning fire for freedom that was guiding our work. Our numbers did not decrease because of an ugly opposition. They increased. Public support for our work did not decrease because of mob violence and police brutality. It increased. It almost seemed the more the unjust resisted, the more impassioned the call for change. After the initial fear, each protest became an exercise in freedom instead of a cause for alarm. Think about your greater fear. Consider how you would feel if your life required you to face what you fear the most every day. Ultimately, if you survive the test, you would discover that what you feared actually had no power over you, no power to harm you at all. The freedom you would feel would be so beautiful, so uplifting, so invigorating. People ask me, how could you be arrested 40 times in the movement and never press charges, never fight or strike back? When people ask these questions, they perceive that I was being abused, when in reality, I was being freed. By the time I stood on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, I had no fear of physical harm or death. So when people ask me how I managed my fear in that moment, I can truthfully say I was not afraid. I knew by that time that no one had the power to injure me. I had taken that power away by experiencing the worst they could do and discovering it did not diminish me. It did not harm me. It set me free and moved my soul beyond the fear of death. I don't know what will happen now, but it doesn't really matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop like anybody. I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I am not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think one of the greatest tests of our faith in the movement was being imprisoned in a maximum security facility in the Mississippi Delta, Parchman Farm. It challenged our faith, but it also unlocked our ability to engage in some of the most difficult yet powerful work of the civil rights movement. Parchman was and still is one of the most brutal prisons in the country. It is a 20,000-acre farm where convicts are subjected to a system of hard labor and sometimes leased out to farmers to help pick their crops. In other cities, we were incarcerated in jails that were located within the surrounding communities. Parchman was isolated deep in the Yazoo Delta, a remote part of an unyielding state. Contrary to the attempts at revisionist civil rights history being propagated today in politics, Mississippi was the most unapologetic, dangerous place to desegregate. Political party affiliation had nothing to do with the jeopardy in which we found ourselves in Mississippi. It was all segregated, all brutally racist, and extremely perilous. By this point in the rides, we had already been attacked in Rock Hill, South Carolina. A bus was set on fire in Anniston, Alabama. We had faced mob violence in Birmingham and spent an entire night in a church in Montgomery surrounded by a bloodthirsty gang of 3,000 vigilantes threatening to burn the church down. In Parchman, the National Guard could not come to our aid as it did in Montgomery. We were locked in under the control of the state of Mississippi, where prisoners had been lynched and murdered with no witnesses and no traces of their demise. We had no idea what would happen to us when we were arrested and taken to Parchman Farm. We did have a plan, however. Our strategy was that we would not post bail. We would stay incarcerated the entire 40-day term. At the same time, more freedom riders would attempt to ride through Mississippi, knowing they would be arrested. Our strategy was to flood the penal system until it overflowed with Americans calling for justice. Just like protesters recently swarmed the state capitol in Wisconsin, we filled the jails in the heart of Mississippi, insisting that our incarceration was wrong. In the section where I was held, it was very hard to hear and impossible to see the other inmates, but it became clear that our strategy was working. Soon, the cells around me were full of riders, and we began to sing songs of freedom to remind us of our purpose and keep our spirits high. We sang, "Keep our eyes on the prize, hold on," and "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." We sang, "Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom," and many other songs that reminded us of our faith. The music, the music. There's this music that I keep hearing being talked about from Chicago, drill music. I'm not sure what that is. I'm guessing it's some type of rap music. But the things that I hear about it is that it is like not good for the youth and it is creating a lot of havoc and chaos. Remember, Lucifer was the angel of music. We gotta be mindful of what we listen to and what our youth are listening to. It can give them faith or it can be their demise. The song seemed to aggravate prison officials who ultimately took away our Bibles, our toothbrushes, and even our mattresses and bedding, leaving us to sleep on steel cots, all to snuff out the joy in our hearts. Parchman was a prison meant to break the hardest men, and the prison guards were frustrated that their worst punishment could not shake our faith. We remained incarcerated for a little over a month. We were never let out of our cells in any common area and were only allowed to take a shower once a week. Ultimately, we were released. I guess the state decided punishing us further was counterproductive. When we were set free from the worst prison in the country, we emerged stronger than ever before. Our faith had seen us through. We knew then that even though Mississippi presented the most perilous dangers in our struggle, we realized through our imprisonment in Parchment that our faith had the power to deliver us even from the most vicious proponents in segregation. That experience set the stage within us spiritually and psychologically to believe that we could open a snake office in Greenville, Mississippi, the most resistant territory in the struggle against segregation. It gave us the courage to initiate the Mississippi Freedom Summer, preparing ourselves in advance for the real possibilities of tragedy, and it enabled us to take on the heroic work of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. We came out of Parchment stronger in our faith than ever before, more focused, with a greater sense of purpose. We were like Jonah, who journeyed into the belly of the beast, like Apollo, who slayed Python the dragon, like Toussaint Louverture, who faced down the most brutal foe. We emerged from Parchment believing we had the power to turn even Mississippi around. There is still a great deal of work to do today in the Yazoo Delta and the state of Mississippi. But because of a band of brothers and sisters empowered by their faith, the hands that pick cotton in Mississippi are now picking presidents of the United States. Despite the remaining vestiges of segregation, evidently our faith did move mountains because Mississippi has more elected representatives of African American descent today than any other state in the Union. The power of faith is transformative. It can be utilized in your own personal life to change your individual condition, and it can be used as a lifeline of spiritual strength to change a nation. Each and every one of us is imbued with the divine spark of the Creator. That spark links us to the greatest source of power in the universe. It also unites us with one another and the infinity of the creation. If we stand on this knowledge, even if it is in direct conflict with the greatest forces of injustice around us, a host of divine help, both seen and unseen, will come to our aid. This does not mean you will not face adversity. You can be arrested, jailed, and beaten on this quest. And sometimes you must be prepared to lose all you have, even your life. But if you do not waver, your sacrifice, even in death, has the power to redeem a community, a people, and a nation from the untruths of separation and division and from the lies of inferiority and superiority. Once you realize your own true divinity, no one can imprison you, reject you, abuse you, or degrade you. And any attempt to do so will only be an aid to your own liberation. You will discover that no government, no teacher, no abusive parent or spouse, not even torture or terror, has the power to define you. Once you find within you the true ability to define yourself according to the dictates of your conscience and your faith, you have come a long way down the path that can lead to social transformation. Faith will be the lifeblood of all your activism, and it has the power to make a way out of no way. You may be in your darkest hour. It may be darker than 10,000 nights on your path to lasting change, but there is something in you that keeps you moving, feeling your way through the night until you can see a glimmer of light. That is the power of faith. When you pray, move your feet. That's an African proverb. Faith without works is dead. I want to thank you guys for being here, whether you are here live or on the replay. I thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a blessed day today. If you are on the replay, please click that like, subscribe, and share. I love you all. I